Now that we've discussed how to create typography in your sketch, let's take a look at a few example sketches that do just that. I'll start by taking the letters of the word imagination. I'll draw each letter as its own little piece of text and bounce it around randomly over time. This is kind of nice because the word still stays legible, but it has a lot of liveliness. Here's a more sedate version of letters moving around. The word is early sunglow, which is a variety of peach. As you can see, each letter is rotating around its lower left corner, but the letters rotate more slowly as we work our way to the right. This creates some really nice patterns, and it gives the whole thing sort of a nice organic feeling. I really like this idea of manipulating the individual letters of a string because it gives us another way to play with type beyond just moving words around. We saw this example before. All I'm doing is changing type size from one frame to the next, and it looks like this string is growing and shrinking and maybe even bouncing towards us and away from us. This example is inspired by all those great old movies where the newspaper spins as it comes closer to us. I'll run it again. And you can see how nice it is to watch all of this stuff move together. And of course, I'm using a whole bunch of different fonts at the same time. I thought it would be fun to write a fortune cookie program. So I have a bunch of strings that I've typed in myself and a few templates for sentences that use those strings. Think Mad Libs, where there's a bunch of text that already exists and slots, and I drop random things into the slots. So as long as the program runs, it will keep cranking out these unpredictable fortune cookies. Notice that both fortune cookies are drawn with the same typeface, but slightly different colors. Here's an example of some text that is moving along a path. So I have the phrase pomegranate and lime juice, and it's moving around an ellipse. On each frame, I'm just finding different points on the ellipse, and I'm just dropping the character into that position. Here's a more elaborate version of that same idea. Each time I hit the space bar, I get a new Bezier curve, and on that Bezier curve, I place the letters of a phrase. Granny Smith apples can be quite tart. If I press the M key, these letters move along the path. If you remember our discussion of Bezier curves, you'll remember that when we use Bezier point to find points along the curve, equal steps in the parameter that we use to find the point on the curve does not always mean that the points on the curve will be equally spaced. And you can see that here. The letters tend to bunch up and move more slowly near the knots, and they spread out and move more quickly in the middle. By hitting the space bar, I can just keep generating tons of random paths, and the letters just slide along nicely along each new random path. Of course, we don't have to draw the path. I'm drawing it here so that you can see it. Here's an example of a little protest rally. Everyone has a sign, and each sign is a random message in a random font in a random color. I've typed in all these messages, but all the other stuff is random. So I use a little routine to figure out how big the sign needs to be for each protester, and I make a sign of that size. I can have lots more signs if I want, or lots less, and I can increase or decrease the agitation. Here we'll make them calmer and things sort of slow down, or I can increase their agitation and things get kind of crazy. So we'll slow it down. Well, we don't want to stop it. And I'll add a few more signs. And we have a little peaceful protest. Here's a little program that can serve as the basis for a little art piece maybe. Each time I type a letter, it shows up at a random position and in a random color, and it goes down the screen in sort of a random way. I think of this a little bit like rainfall. So if I type hello, we'll get that. Or if I type I like apples with an exclamation point. Or I can just type random letters and numbers and punctuation marks, and we get this nice kind of falling rain example of type. And of course I can stick words and other stuff in there. Let's put in processing. And you can't read it because they're all showing up at random places, but there was no requirement for that. And I enjoy watching the changing density of the pattern. When I feel like I don't have enough characters, I just kind of mash my fingers on the keyboard, and I enjoy watching them fall. So those are some of the things that you can do with type. Anytime you want to display information to your users, use Processing's built-in typography tools. They're really quite flexible and nice, and you'll find that they're easy to use.